Most people believe change fails because of laziness, lack of discipline, or weak motivation, but your brain does not see it that way at all. To your nervous system, change is interpreted as uncertainty, and uncertainty is interpreted as potential danger. Long before logic, goals, or ambition can speak, your survival system has already made a decision about whether something feels safe. This decision happens automatically, silently, and extremely fast. You are not asked for permission. You are informed after the fact. That is why people often say they want something yet behave in ways that prevent it. It is not hypocrisy, it is protection. The brain is not trying to stop your progress, it is trying to prevent risk. And risk, to the primitive mind, means loss, instability, or harm. So before we talk about habits or discipline, you must first understand the hidden rule underneath everything. Your brain values familiarity more than improvement. Your conscious mind wants progress, but your survival mind wants predictability. Those two systems do not operate at the same speed, and they do not use the same priorities. The thinking mind imagines the future. The survival mind scans for threat. One is concerned with possibility, the other is concerned with safety. When those systems disagree, the faster system wins, and the faster system is always the survival system. This is why insight alone rarely changes behavior. You can understand something completely and still feel unable to act differently. Understanding is slow and deliberate. Protection is instant and automatic. The brain does not ask, "Is this good for my future?" It asks, "Is this safe right now?" That single difference explains why change feels uncomfortable even when it is clearly beneficial. The discomfort is not a flaw, it is a signal. Your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do, protect stability at all costs. Stability is your brain's favorite environment because stability is predictable, and predictable means controllable. The brain prefers a known problem over an unknown outcome. This is why people stay in situations they claim to dislike. Familiar discomfort is still familiar. The nervous system already knows how to manage it, but something new, even something better, requires recalibration. It demands new predictions, new reactions, and new expectations. That requires energy, and your brain is always trying to conserve energy. From a biological standpoint, change is expensive. It requires attention, adjustment, and learning. So when you attempt to change, your brain evaluates not only the benefit but the cost. If the cost feels uncertain, it delays action. Not because you are incapable, because you are efficient. The brain is not designed to make life better. It is designed to keep life stable. Improvement is optional. Survival is mandatory. This is why motivation fades so quickly. Motivation is emotional fuel, and emotional fuel burns fast. The brain does not trust emotional states because they fluctuate. Instead, it trusts patterns. Patterns are predictable. Predictable patterns signal safety. So when you try to replace an old pattern with a new one, the brain reacts as if something important is being removed. It does not care that the old pattern was unhelpful. It only cares that it was known. Known patterns require less monitoring, and less monitoring means less effort. New behaviors require attention, and attention is biologically costly. So your brain subtly nudges you back toward what it already recognizes. Not aggressively, quietly, through hesitation, doubt, distraction, or delay. These are not signs of weakness. They are signs of resistance. And resistance is not your enemy. It is evidence that your brain is protecting what it believes is safest. Resistance often disguises itself as logic. Thoughts appear that sound reasonable, responsible, and sensible. Maybe later. Now isn't the right time. I should wait until I'm more ready. These thoughts feel intelligent, but they are protective. The brain is skilled at producing convincing explanations for avoidance. It does not say, "I am afraid of change." It says, "I am being careful." That distinction matters because careful sounds wise, while afraid sounds weak. The brain prefers identities that preserve confidence, so it reframes hesitation as strategy. This keeps your self-image intact while still preventing risk. The result is delay without guilt, but delay repeated often becomes habit, and habit becomes personality. Over time, people begin to believe they are simply the type of person who struggles with change. In reality, they are experiencing a perfectly functioning protection system that has never been taught that change can also be safe. Safety, to the brain, is not defined by happiness or success. It is defined by familiarity. This is why improvement can feel uncomfortable and stagnation can feel strangely calm. Calm does not always mean good. It often means known. When something is known, the brain can predict it. Prediction reduces threat. Reduced threat produces calm. So the nervous system rewards familiarity with relief, even when familiarity is limiting. This is one of the most misunderstood psychological experiences people have. They assume comfort means they are on the right path. Sometimes comfort simply means they are on the known path. Growth rarely feels like comfort at first. Growth feels like uncertainty. And uncertainty activates monitoring systems inside the brain. Monitoring feels like tension. So progress often feels tense before it feels rewarding. That tension is not a warning sign to stop. It is a sign that your brain is updating its model of what is safe. Your brain is constantly predicting what will happen next. It does this so it can prepare responses in advance. Predictions save time, save energy, and increase survival efficiency. But predictions rely on past experience. The brain assumes tomorrow will resemble yesterday. When you attempt something new, there is no past reference. Without reference, prediction accuracy drops. When prediction drops, uncertainty rises. When uncertainty rises, the brain increases caution. This is why new actions feel heavier than familiar ones. It is not physical weight. It is predictive load. The brain must pay closer attention because it cannot rely on autopilot. Autopilot is its favorite mode because autopilot costs almost nothing. Conscious effort costs a lot. So your brain prefers routines, not because routines are better, but because routines are cheaper. Change interrupts autopilot. Interruption demands awareness. Awareness requires energy, and energy is something your brain protects carefully. This protective system once kept humans alive in dangerous environments. For most of human history, unfamiliar situations could mean real physical threat. A new environment might contain predators, hostile tribes, or scarce resources. So the brain evolved to treat unfamiliar as suspicious. That ancient wiring still exists today, even though modern change rarely involves physical danger. Your brain does not distinguish well between social risk and survival risk. To it, uncertainty is uncertainty. Whether you are changing a habit, speaking differently, or trying something new, the same alert system activates. Your heart rate may rise, your thoughts may scatter, your body may tense. These reactions are not signs you should stop. They are signs your protection system has noticed something unfamiliar. It is checking whether you are safe. That check is automatic, you do not choose it. But you can understand it, and understanding removes confusion, which reduces unnecessary fear. Confusion amplifies resistance. When people do not understand why change feels difficult, they assume something is wrong with them. That assumption creates frustration. Frustration creates pressure. Pressure increases stress. And stress strengthens the brain's desire to return to familiarity. So misunderstanding the process actually reinforces the cycle you are trying to break. But when you recognize that resistance is protective, not defective, your interpretation changes. Instead of seeing hesitation as failure, you see it as information. Information can be studied. Failure feels final. This shift matters because interpretation affects reaction. If you interpret difficulty as proof you cannot change, you stop. If you interpret difficulty as proof your brain is adjusting, you continue. The experience is the same, only the meaning is different, and meaning is powerful. The brain reacts not just to events, but to what it believes those events mean. Change the meaning, and you change the response. The brain does not fear effort as much as it fears unpredictability. People often think they avoid change because it is hard. In truth, they avoid it because it is unclear. Effort that leads somewhere predictable is tolerable. Effort that leads somewhere unknown is stressful. This is why structured challenges feel easier than open-ended ones. Structure reduces uncertainty. Reduced uncertainty lowers threat signals. When threat signals drop, the brain allows action. This explains why some people perform well under strict systems but struggle without them. The system is not giving them discipline, it is giving them predictability. Predictability reassures the brain. Reassurance reduces resistance. So the issue is rarely effort capacity, it is uncertainty tolerance. The more uncertain something feels, the more the brain slows you down. Not to sabotage you, but to protect you. Slowing down is the brain's way of saying, I need more information before I proceed. Information is the brain's strongest calming tool. The more it understands a situation, the safer it feels. This is why repeated exposure reduces fear. Familiarity grows with repetition, and familiarity signals safety. The first time something happens, your brain is alert. The 10th time, it is calmer. The 100th time, it is automatic. Nothing about the activity changed. Only your brain's prediction accuracy changed. Accuracy creates confidence. Confidence reduces resistance. So what people call confidence is often just familiarity remembered. This is important because it means confidence is not a personality trait. It is a neurological state created through repetition. The brain trusts what it has seen before. It relaxes around what it recognizes. So when change feels uncomfortable, it does not mean you are incapable. It means your brain has not seen this pattern enough times yet. Repetition teaches safety. Safety permits action. Many people wait to feel ready before they begin. But readiness is not something the brain grants in advance. Readiness is something it grants after exposure. The brain rarely approves unfamiliar action beforehand. It approves afterward, once it sees evidence that nothing harmful happened. This is why starting often feels hardest. Starting means acting without proof of safety. The brain prefers proof first. But proof only comes after action. So there is a natural loop. Action creates evidence. Evidence creates safety. Safety permits more action. When people wait for readiness, they are waiting for evidence they have not yet allowed themselves to collect. The brain is not refusing progress. It is requesting reassurance. And reassurance comes from experience, not intention. Intention tells the brain what you want. Experience tells the brain what is safe. Between those two, experience always wins. Another reason change feels difficult is because identity becomes attached to patterns. The brain builds a sense of self from repeated behavior. If you repeatedly act a certain way, the brain labels that pattern as who you are. This label simplifies prediction. If the brain knows who you are, it can predict what you will do. Prediction reduces uncertainty, but when you try to change, you disrupt that prediction model. The brain must update its understanding of you. Updating identity requires cognitive effort, so the brain resists not just the new action, but the identity shift behind it. It prefers consistency. Consistency makes the world easier to forecast. This is why people often say, "This just isn't me." That statement feels true because the brain has recorded past patterns as evidence. But identity is not fixed. It is recorded. And anything recorded can be updated with enough new evidence. Updating evidence takes time because the brain values patterns, not moments. One action does not change its conclusions. It looks for repetition. Repetition proves reliability. Reliability proves safety. So when you try something new once, and it still feels uncomfortable, that does not mean it is wrong for you. It means your brain does not yet consider it reliable. Reliability is built slowly. The brain is cautious for a reason. False predictions can be dangerous, so it requires multiple confirmations before it changes its model. This patience is protective, not obstructive. It prevents you from reacting too quickly to temporary experiences. But it also means change requires consistency, not perfection. Consistency. The brain is not counting how well you perform. It is counting how often you repeat. Frequency teaches safety faster than intensity. Small repeated signals calm the brain more effectively than rare dramatic ones. Intensity often feels convincing, but the brain trusts duration more than intensity. A strong burst of effort can feel powerful, yet it does not last long enough to rewrite prediction patterns. The brain assumes short bursts are temporary states. Temporary states are ignored when building long-term expectations. But repeated actions, even small ones, signal stability. Stability tells the brain this might be the new normal. Once the brain suspects something is becoming normal, it reduces resistance. This is why slow change is often more sustainable than dramatic change. Slow change gives the brain time to update safely. Dramatic change demands immediate adjustment. Immediate adjustment feels risky. Risk triggers caution. Caution slows you down. So the pace that feels slow to your conscious mind often feels safe to your nervous system. And what feels safe is what your brain allows to continue. Allowance is the hidden factor behind progress. People think success comes from forcing themselves forward. In reality, it comes from reducing internal resistance. When resistance drops, movement feels natural. When resistance is high, even simple actions feel heavy. The difference is not ability, it is permission. The brain can either permit or restrict behavior. Permission feels like ease, restriction feels like effort. Most people try to overpower restriction, but overpowering requires energy, and energy fades. Understanding reduces restriction without draining energy. When the brain understands that something is safe, it stops blocking it. Blocking is expensive. If it is no longer necessary, the brain gladly stops. This is why awareness is powerful. Awareness is not change itself. It is what removes the barriers to change. Once barriers drop, behavior can shift with far less strain. Strain is often misunderstood as proof something is wrong. But strain is simply a sign that your brain is still evaluating safety. Evaluation creates tension because the system is monitoring closely. Monitoring requires alertness. Alertness feels intense. Yet intensity is temporary. As familiarity increases, monitoring decreases. When monitoring decreases, tension fades. This is why something that once felt difficult can later feel effortless. Nothing external changed. Only your brain's assessment changed. It moved from unknown to known. That shift is the entire transformation. The action stayed the same. The interpretation changed, and interpretation determines emotional response. So the goal is not to eliminate difficulty instantly. The goal is to allow your brain enough exposure that it no longer sees the action as unfamiliar. Once familiarity forms, resistance dissolves naturally. Natural dissolution is important because forced change rarely lasts. When behavior is forced, the brain still considers it unsafe. It complies temporarily but continues monitoring for escape. This creates internal friction. Friction drains energy. Eventually energy runs low, and the brain returns to familiar patterns. But when change is gradually accepted, friction is minimal. Minimal friction allows consistency. Consistency builds familiarity. Familiarity builds safety. Safety allows permanence. This sequence cannot be rushed. The brain must experience each stage. Skipping stages creates instability, and instability triggers resistance again. So sustainable change is not about pushing harder. It is about allowing your nervous system to update. Updating is slower than forcing, but it lasts longer. The brain prefers what lasts. Temporary change is treated as noise. Lasting change is treated as truth. Truth, to the brain, is simply what happens repeatedly. It does not judge. It records. Whatever you repeat becomes what it expects. Whatever it expects becomes what feels natural. This is why patterns shape perception. People think they see reality clearly, but they actually see predictions. The brain filters experience through expectation. If it expects something to be difficult, it prepares resistance. If it expects something to be safe, it allows ease. Expectations are not chosen consciously. They are learned through repetition. That means they can also be relearned, not instantly but reliably. Each repeated experience writes another line of evidence. Enough lines become a pattern. Enough patterns become a belief. Enough beliefs become a new normal. And once something feels normal, the brain stops resisting it. Stopping resistance does not feel dramatic. It feels quiet. One day, something that once felt difficult simply feels ordinary. There is no sudden revelation, no dramatic breakthrough, just the absence of tension. This quiet shift is often overlooked because it is subtle. But subtle changes are the most stable ones. Loud motivation fades, quiet familiarity stays. The brain prefers quiet because quiet means predictable. Predictable means safe. Safe means allowed. When something is allowed, you no longer need willpower to do it. It happens automatically. Automation is the brain's favorite state. Automation saves energy, reduces monitoring, and increases efficiency. So the ultimate goal of change is not effort. It is automation. Once something becomes automatic, it stops feeling like change at all. It feels like you. This is why real transformation rarely feels like transformation while it is happening. It feels like repetition. Repetition can seem boring, slow, and uneventful. But the brain does not care about excitement. It cares about reliability. Reliability convinces it that something is safe to keep. So while you may feel nothing is happening, your brain may be quietly updating its internal model. That update is invisible, but it is powerful. Because once the model changes, your behavior changes with it. You do not push yourself forward. You simply stop holding yourself back. And that difference is enormous. Movement created by force stops when force ends. Movement created by permission continues on its own. So if your brain resists change, it is not working against you. It is working for you using ancient rules designed for survival. Those rules favor familiarity, predictability, and proven safety. Change challenges all three at once. Of course, the brain hesitates. Hesitation is protection. Protection is intelligence. When you understand that, resistance stops feeling like failure and starts looking like information. Information can guide you. Failure only discourages you. Your brain is not your obstacle. It is your security system. And security systems are supposed to react when something unfamiliar appears. The goal is not to silence that system. The goal is to teach it that what is new is also safe. Once it learns that lesson, it stops blocking your path. And when the brain stops blocking, progress no longer feels forced. It feels natural.